What's going on, everybody? It's the Reformation Keegan, and I'm here today with another comic analysis. So, today we're looking at Gotham City Year One. So, as many of you know, if you've seen these videos, I'm not going to go through the entire arc step by step as a review because I firmly believe that you have enough of that on YouTube. But I want to give more of an analysis from an English major's point of view on some of the themes, the tropes, the characterizations that are used in the story itself. So, Gotham City Year One is something that I kind of stumbled upon. So last year there was a $1 bin sale at one of my local comic stores, and I found the sixth issue, which is actually this cover right here, and it immediately piqued my interest. And I had heard of Gotham City Year One because it came out in 2022 and early 2023, but I never grabbed it. I kind of forgot about it. But picking up the sixth issue and how nice it looked for $1 piqued my interest. So that was the only issue I could really find. So I just decided to wait until the trade came out, and I picked up this trade paperback on a free comic book weekend this year. And need I say, the art by Phil Hester is absolutely incredible. This kind of style, along with like Chris Samnees and Michael Cho's and Bruce Timms and Darwin Cooks, that kind of animated art style, that cartoonish style, is my favorite because it's very nostalgic and it kind of brings you back to your childhood in many ways. So the art immediately piqued my interest, and the art stays consistent like this throughout all six issues, so there's no difference. The cover art's the same, and the interior art is also the same. So this piqued my interest because it's not just about Batman, it's not just about Bruce Wayne, it's about how Gotham City transformed and what its origins are. So Gotham City was once this really elaborate area, and this really high end municipality. And what happens is Gotham becomes riddled with corruption, and that corruption turns it into a crime lord. And also, we get the origin of Crime Alley, which is obviously very strong in the Batman canon. So we get that story here, and Tom King is an excellent writer. His prose is incredible. His diction is incredible. He writes for the era, and what I mean by that is whatever era that he is trying to write in, he matches it through word choice, which is diction. Because this is predicated in the 1960s, and more specifically starts in 1961. So if we look back at 1961, we have to look at what's happening in North American society. Obviously, you have a really large aristocratic influence in the Americas that control a lot of things, which is what the Waynes are here. But also, you have the civil rights movement. So there's a huge connotation of race and a huge connotation of gender that is happening, and we see it throughout Tom King's diction in this story, because he will have these aristocratic characters like Richard Wayne and and Constance Wayne. They will say what we would deem very derogatory terms to describe certain races of people. But also there is a really cool, unique sense of mysticism here, where Slam Bradley's mother is also reading tarot cards for Queenie when she is blamed for the kidnapping of Helen. So Helen Wayne is a really interesting case because this story is riddled with mystery, and the mystery aspect of this is obviously what's going to propel it forward, and the mystery is going to exploit the issues that these main characters have. So, for example, the Waynes are very flawed people. And if you look into later canons and even in the movies, you can see that they're kind of displayed a little more heroic. But Tom King shows their complexities. They're not necessarily villains, because they're not, but they're what we would deem a complex character that has a lot of shades of gray. So you have being a villain, you have being a hero, and then you have the middle. And the Waynes here are in the middle, which I found really intriguing because the kidnapping of Helen would obviously make you think, oh, this is going to be a villain abduction story where the baby is going to get murdered, and then we're going to go and we're going to try and solve this crime, which does happen, because the characterization of Slam Bradley is almost like a Batman before Batman. And I got a lot of vibes of Dick Tracy throughout the characterization of Slam Bradley in this, and even just based off of appearance too. Like if you look at the appearance, there are a lot of similarities, obviously with the hat, the facial structure, the jacket, etc. So the kidnapping of Helen Wayne will make you address a lot of different questions. But what I found was great was Tom King didn't give you the answers right away. He was making you wait and make you think it was one person and then it would be another, because it could have been Queenie. It could have even been Slam Bradley, who was initially blamed at the beginning. It could have been Constance Wayne, which is obviously Bruce's grandmother. But you also forget about Richard a little bit. And then eventually, spoiler alert, we find out who it is. And what I found really intriguing with Richard is that you have all the riches, you have everything you've ever wanted, but you still have that missing void. So it doesn't matter, again, Tom King sending the message, no matter how rich you are, or no matter what you bring to the table to a city and contribute to it financially and socioeconomically, there's still something in your mind mentally that you cannot convey to anybody else, and there's this sense of not being complete. And that's what happens with Helen. And the one thing that was really intriguing is that it's not explicitly stated how Helen is murdered per se, but we discover that Slam and company, they find her dead in Queenie's yard, and they have to dig her up. So the themes of murder are a bit fuzzy here, because we don't really actively see it. But we find out that Richard kind of does it to fill that void that he wants, because it's like he's unhappy. He has that sense of incompleteness that he can't really fulfill, and that's a very selfish act. However, if you look at it from a mental health point of view, there's not really a way to justify it, but you try to understand why this would happen. And then even with Queenie, it was really difficult for everybody to believe her story due to her affiliations and her cat-like reflexes, which obviously raised a lot of red flags. But the tarot card segment was very, very intriguing, because she keeps saying, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. But that's a connotation that you can put as a sense of denial, but also the way that Hester illustrates it, you can see in her facial reactions that there is a lot of sincerity to this, and that that the Waynes, and more specifically Thomas, Richard are hiding something. Thomas is an era before, because this is Bruce's grandparents. So this is 2 generations prior. And speaking of generations, I love the way that Tom King wrote this, because he wrote it as a flashback, but also in the present tense. So you're getting the present story, and then every now and then he will have the flashback scenarios where you can visualize and you can actually physically see that Slam Bradley is talking to a modern day Batman, educating him on what's happening, because Sam Bradley in this arc is now 94 years old in the present day. So he's going to unfortunately kick the bucket sooner rather than later, but he wants to get all of this out there to educate Bruce on his familial history. And we know that Thomas and Martha, they're very noble, but the generation prior, due to the societal implications that are going on in the civil rights movement, are very polarizing. So we can see the evolution through a generational perspective of how the Waynes have evolved, not just financially, but morally as well. So the moral dilemma in this is very, very indicative to how Thomas and Martha are going to parent Bruce before they unfortunately get murdered, and how Bruce is going to carry himself going forward. And this can be seen through his interactions with Alfred, his romantic relationships, even when he's becoming a father to Damian Wayne, being like a father/brother figure to Dick Grayson. There's so many different little intangibles here that Tom King is showing you as little Easter eggs that you can look and relate to with subsequent Batman narratives. So that was really intriguing to me. But also, Gotham City Year One, especially the third book, I think revealed a lot. I loved the quote, a gun is a Gotham lie detector, because we can see how Gotham has went from this pristine city with a lot of admiration to just a full-on slum in a lot of ways, almost like a rich slum in a lot of ways. Because don't forget, we have like the South Side and things like that. So there's different areas of Gotham that are less fortunate than others. And again, that's where the theme of the civil rights movement will keep coming in. And I think Tom King has a very strong understanding of the civil rights movement and the racial and gendered inequalities that are happening. And you can see that through Constance having to really go behind Richard's back, one to basically kind of employ Slam Bradley, but also too when she walks in one segment where she's wearing a lot of powder because she is struck, unfortunately, by Richard. But she says that the powder can cover it up, and that's a very revealing segment within the narrative that shows Tom King's understanding of what relationships unfortunately consisted of back in previous generations. But yeah, the gun as a Gotham lie detector is very indicative because we can see how this story is the genesis that leads to all these other very violent and dark and brooding interactions, especially with Bruce having to, go against villains like the Penguin and Two-Face and, Ra's al Ghul, people who predicate themselves on weaponry. And the gun being the Gotham lie detector is encapsulating the theme of justice and that larger theme of crime that Gotham has unfortunately become associated with. Because when you think of Gotham, you think of the knights, the Dark Knights and all the other unfortunate dark aspects of it that go on, let's say, between 11 o'clock at night to 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning when it's always dark out and all you hear is gunshots left, right, and center. So I think that Tom King did a really, really good job. And the other thing is that, and I know I mentioned it a few minutes ago about the unfortunate domestic abuse in this, is um, basically Constance says that Mr. Wayne gets mad and he slaps her around, but but she wears that powder to cover it up, and it's like that powder of covering up the face after a blemish from a strike is also intangible as well as tangible, because we can see how Constance in this struggles with a moral dilemma on what to do in these situations with justice. But it also shows how a lot of times the rich will use their power, their authority, and their funds to disguise the blemishes that go on behind closed doors, which I think Tom King also reveals a lot in this story. So I really enjoyed this arc and this run. There's a lot of historical connotations to it and a lot of symbolism that I think you can sink your teeth into if that's something that you're interested in. It's not necessarily a feel good story in a lot of ways, where you're gonna be smiling throughout a lot of it. I kind of found this book a little more educational than anything. So the ambiguities in it though are very strong, and they're second to none, because Gotham City basically prides itself off of ambiguities, both morally and aesthetically. So that was one of the final messages I got out of this narrative. But the characterizations were incredible, and seeing Batman grown up at the end was awesome. But he's called Bruce the entire time by Slam Bradley. But I would love to see even more stuff with Slam Bradley going forward, because I think that this relationship between him and Bruce of being an educator and Bruce kind of still being a student, still learning, even though he's been in control of Gotham for a long time, is something that I think you can explore a bit further. So I would love to see that going forward. But Tom King, again, incredible writer, and Phil Hester is a heck of an illustrator. So I'm gonna have to actually dig deeper and look at some more of his artwork, because I would love to have some. I've even thought of getting something like this as a poster. Like, I think this would be a amazing poster to have, in your comic collection. Maybe you can get it signed if you're into that, or just display it up on a wall. I think it would look great. But if you've read Gotham City Year One, let me know what you think. Like I said, I don't want to give you a step-by-step review because everybody does it anyway. I just wanted to dig a little deeper in an analysis of this, and maybe exploit some things that maybe not everyone would think of. But I'm happy to do more of these, because I love doing these little analyses. And eventually I'm hoping to do some more pertaining to other characters like the Flash, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, people like that. So let me know if you have any suggestions. Let me know if there's any stories you want me to cover. Let me know. I have a whole bunch of trades. I have a whole bunch of back issues. I might have the story that you're looking for, and if not, I'm probably gonna get it anyway because I love collecting comics and I love reading anything comic related. So let me know what you want me to review and analyze, and I will be back soon. And most of all, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 500, and I'm trying to get 3,000 watch hours so I can become a YouTube partner and I can provide better content for you going forward. So signing off, and I'll see you soon.